I'm Gorilla Monsoon.
And I'm thankful that I'm not.
Oh, you just can't help yourself, can you, huh?
I don't help anyone.
Huh.
Unless they've got the cash.
Yeah, I'm going to help you out the door if you don't stop.
If you can fit
anyway,
through
folks,
it.
I'm going to knock you out.
Excuse me, but is anyone going to introduce me, bro?
All right. And this is Vince Russo.
I thought it was the mailman.
Huh. Why don't you be serious?
Smells like one.
Well, what the frig, bro?
All right, enough. Folks, coming up in just a short is a podcast hosted by two guys you've never heard of and probably never will.
Monsoon knows a guy who knows a guy, if you know what I'm saying.
I get it.
Oh, will you stop? Folks, Chris and George or something, they do the Hot Tag Podcast, and here it is.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Hot Tag Wrestling Show. I am Christy Francesco, and joining me, as always, is my good buddy, George Rogers. George, what's going on, man? How are you?
Chris, I'm living the life.
I know, man. I know. I think as we are streaming this right now, I just saw something on Twitter or X or Y, whatever people are calling it these days.
Well, I still call it Twitter. The rest of the known world calls it Twitter. Elon Musk got his fucking panties in a little bunch because people still call it Twitter. It's like, stop calling it Twitter. Well, give your kids a real name, and maybe I'll name it X.
And I just saw that, Bubba Ray was on there, and so I don't know what's going on with NXT while they're pulling out all these legends all of a sudden. I don't know what's going on with that.
I will tell you why. Because next Wednesday, not Tuesday, Wednesday, NXT is going to be coming from the 2300 Arena, the old ECW Arena in Philly. And so I'm guessing Bubba Ray is probably going to have a match, probably against Ethan Page or so, because he showed up at Halloween Havoc. RVD was backstage at NXT. And just before I came down here, Tony D'Angelo got a phone call from somebody, I think, who wants to challenge him for his North American title. And I'm like, that voice sounds a little familiar. It was Nunzio, or to the ECW fans, little Guido Maritano from the FBI. So, you're going to be in the ECW arena. You're going to pull out the ECW legends. I know you hate it because you're like, I'm afraid of things. But
nobody watched them then. That's why they were out of business.
Nobody watched them.
No one cared.
Because they were aired on the Nashville network after the Grand Ole Opry on a Friday night.
Because you're not good enough to get a television deal. It's the way it is. Yeah. When you hire people like New Jack and you put them on television, it's just
some people think that New Jack is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah,
and New Jack sliced the bread.
I understand the significance of ECW. I don't hate it. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I don't look at it. I think people build it up more today than what it really was because of hindsight and the WWE network. But no one watched it. No one watched it. That's the thing. If somebody watched it, it would have lasted a little longer.
ECW is the definition of cult following.
I agree.
Not saying like you need to be in a cult to follow ECW, but it was underground. Like you had to know that it was Friday nights at 10 on the Nashville network. If they didn't piss off the censors this week, is when Hardcore TV was going to be on. Like you kind of knew, and they would show up on Raw in '97. A working relationship with Vince McMahon, which is something Eric Bischoff didn't have. But they were the legitimate alternative to what was happening. Especially when we're watching Nitro and we're watching Raw and we're like, oh, the fuck, especially now we're like, oh, what the fuck is going on here? ECW, we didn't know what was going on, but it didn't matter because, hey, this chick is wearing a hell of a lot less than Miss Liz is wearing. Hey, this dude isn't a trash man swinging around a trash can.
Yeah, right.
That's just a blonde guy with a mullet and Zubaz pants, swinging a kendo stick.
Yeah. No, look, I'll never say to somebody, you're dumb. It was trash. It sucked. It just wasn't for me. I understand what they did. I think if they never, I mean, they had help from Vince McMahon dating back to like 96. And I feel like if they didn't have that help from Vince, they would have gone under way before that. So, I mean, so we'll see. I mean, how history treats it.
They did have a lot of really good talent in ECW.
They did. I agree. I mean,
especially the ones that got poached from WCW.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
Guerrero, Malenko, Benoit, they all got poached from ECW to WCW. You know, Austin, became Austin in ECW. I mean, it's a shame that when he showed up to the other place, he became the ringmaster for 3 months, and that was a fucking botch.
It was. You're right.
Luckily, he was much better.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. Luckily, Vince kind of figured out, he can talk. He has charisma. Well, yes, Vince, if you would have asked for proper reports from Paul Heyman prior to you bringing in the ringmaster, we might have, had a different little thing here.
You think Vince has time for reports? He didn't even realize that Scott Hall was ripping off Scarface with Razor Ramon.
Well, he had enough time and reports to pay to keep the lights on down at the bingo hall in Philly. All right. So
I think they were just stealing electricity anyway. I mean, that's all Philly is. Just people stealing shit from their neighbors, like illegal cable hookups, like back in the day.
All right. So welcome everybody to week 8 of the War Room here, covering the Monday Night Wars week by week in order here. We are basically, again, matching up almost to the date. We are covering October 30th, 1995. For when it comes to Nitro, it's the night after Halloween Havoc. George, I know you watched Halloween Havoc. I watched it. It took place in the Joe Louis Arena. 13,000 people. The tagline was, "There's nowhere to hide." Man, this pay-per-view was, let's just say, something. I mean, a man was killed, presumably dead, but came out, a few minutes later to wrestle a match against Hulk Hogan. Man, what was your thoughts on that pay-per-view?
I mean, hey, man, it was just another day at the office for these guys.
Yes.
Halloween Havoc is the 1995 Halloween Havoc is memorable for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at this pay-per-view and I thought to myself that the best parts of this show were shockingly Lex Luger versus Ming, which I thought was actually it went a little bit too long, but for some reason I thought it was really good. And then Sting and Flair defeating Pillman and Anderson by DQ. I thought they were the two best matches of the night, and that's not saying much. I mean, the opener, Johnny B. Bad versus DDP for the television title, went over 17 minutes. That was a really good opener, I thought.
It just had a really weak finish.
Very weak finish. What was overall, what would you give Halloween Havoc 1995?
6 out of 10, maybe.
I mean, it's crazy because we did all the Nitros obviously leading up to this pay-per-view. And I thought to myself, they did a decent job building this thing up. But man, we get to the pay-per-view. The Giant beats Hulk Hogan to become, he beat Hogan by disqualification with help from the one and only Yeti. What was your thoughts on the debut of the Yeti?
You mean the Mummy?
Sure, we'll go with that.
I have no words for the Yeti. The Yeti. It was such a horrible idea.
It was just,
bad concept.
But remember, they don't have gimmicks.
You already had. Here's the thing. Here's the dumbass shit with the fucking Yeti. Mm-hmm. You already had Lex Luger turn heel and help the Dungeon of Doom. What else did you need?
Yeah.
Instead of having the Yeti come out and do a double bear hug with the Giant where it looks like they're both just humping him. You could have had just Luger come out and put Hogan in the torture rack and then just let Giant do like a 1 foot pin.
That's actually not a bad idea. I think that would have worked a hell of a lot better.
Instead of this Giant winning by disqualification, but still winning the belt because there was a clause in the contract or blah blah blah. A lot of balls up in the air, and unfortunately, none of them caught.
I agree. Hey, look, from this point on, the Halloween Havoc 96, 97, and even, part of 98's Halloween Havoc were really good. So this one was just an oddball. Because, I mean, look, let's be a little bit transparent and let's be fair. We're not even 2 months into Monday Nitro by this point, and you've already had to do this massive Halloween Havoc. So I'm not going to hold it completely against them. However, I will hold that main event completely against them, mixing in, obviously, the sumo monster truck gimmick. Like, look, I understand getting paid sponsorship for that stuff, but you got to draw the line somewhere. Like, that, there's no way, Eric Bischoff and Brother Man are sitting at a table in creative thinking, yeah, this is, fans are going to love this, especially since it's not even in the arena and it was pre-taped the night before. So it's like you're not even getting the live fans who paid to be there are probably barely able to even witness this.
Yeah, if they're in attendance, what are they watching on? Just the fucking Tron? I guess. I mean, whatever a Tron was back then.
Really? I mean, it's I don't know. Well, let's just move forward here. October 30th, 1995. Monday Nitro here, 24 hours following Halloween Havoc. Eric Bischoff, Steve Mongo McMichael, and Bobby the Brain Heenan are calling the action here. They are live from Dayton, Ohio. According to the Wrestling Observer, there were 3,500 fans and only 2,500 paying for entry here. Bischoff says that Randy Savage will not face Sergeant Craig Pittman tonight. Damn, because he was hurt at Halloween Havoc, and that Eddie Guerrero will be his replacement. Savage at the time, which I've talked about the last couple weeks here, was dealing with a legitimate torn tricep injury. So the beating at Halloween Havoc was just easily a way to just write him out of television for the time being. It wouldn't last too long, obviously. We get to the opening contest here. Eddie Guerrero beat Sergeant Craig Pittman with a roll-up victory at just about 5.5 minutes. What was your thoughts on this one, man? I actually liked this. Was again proof like we're starting to see the greatness that was Eddie Guerrero, where I thought he could pretty much work with anyone at any style.
Eddie could have a great match with a broom. And this match showed it because Craig Pittman's not good.
He's not.
He's extremely generic, and I even told you, and this is what like pissed me off. Is like watching this match is like, oh, you have to think that this is an upset victory for Eddie Guerrero. And I'm like, in what fucking world is Eddie Guerrero beating Craig Pittman a fucking upset? Are you out of your mind? Like, I'm sitting there like, what are you selling me on?
Right.
That Eddie Guerrero is great, or that Craig Pittman is so great that Eddie stole out a win? Like, get the fuck out of here.
Hey, look, they're trying to.
Only one of those guys is going to be an active competitor within the next 3 months on this roster.
That is correct.
And it's not the guy that lost. Sorry.
Right. I will say, though, the crowd popped pretty big, though, at that 3 count for Eddie.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll say that, he's well on his way to becoming a pretty significant babyface on this roster.
Crowd was firm behind Eddie.
Yeah. Next match up here, we have my favorite and yours, the Shark, against Dean's favorite, Scott Norton, and they wrestle to a double count out at just under 3 minutes. This is the I guess this is like the long payoff for the Shark, costing Scott Norton his match back on the September 11th edition of Nitro when we covered that during his match at Randy Savage.
Week
right,
fucking 2.
Yep. Heenan leaves the announce table to chat more with Sonny Ono somewhere in the arena, thereby laying the foundation for that WCW New Japan feud coming up. The match, of course, I thought got off to a pretty decent start. I mean, Scott Norton, slamming the Shark like it was easy, like, holy cow. That kind of just made me go, woof, already. But, it was what it was, as they say, right? After the match, Heenan is shown talking to Sonny Ono about various WCW television broadcasts. Ono appears to agree to buy some of them. Then we go to Tony Schiavone, who recaps Ric Flair's shocking turn on Sting at Halloween Havoc. He welcomes out the Three Horsemen with Brian Pillman hyping the Four Fingers as a symbol of excellence. That is a dynasty in professional wrestling. Arn Anderson puts over Sting's resiliency, but reminds him that he is no match for the three of them. And as he does this, Pillman mocks Sting, trying to tag Ric Flair last night. And Flair mocks punching Pillman in the face. Flair says that the Horsemen will be ready to work on next week's show, whether people like it or not. How redundant even at this point in 95, man, how redundant was the Four Horsemen becoming every week, it seems?
It was just the Four Horsemen are back. It's like, first things first, there's three of you.
I know.
Also, I mean, if you didn't see a Ric Flair heel turn coming,
right, and you've been watching wrestling for 3 minutes,
then you're fresh and you don't know who any of these people are.
You're a baby.
But like, I remember even going back and rewatching this for the first time back when we reviewed it when we were audio only. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I bet you Flair turns on. And then just before I finished the phrase, he did. I'm like, know it. Like, it's and Flair's just screaming into the wind about the I was like, what right? It's like, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, Rick.
I guess.
But should we even cast any dispersions against the Four Horsemen? I mean, this fucking company's been trying the Dungeon of Doom out every goddamn week since Nitro started.
I mean, that's my next point was you've got the Dungeon of Doom and the Four Horsemen, and I'm pretty much by this point just done seeing them on my television. And because it's as if they just every single week they're just throwing something against the wall for the Four Horsemen to make it stick. I mean, at least they had the Dungeon of Doom working with Hogan, which is clearly all WCW cared about at the time. But man, this whole thing with the Horsemen, I was like, Jesus, like put them into something that they can sink their teeth in. And they just every week I just felt like it was just something new.
But then even if it's just it's the same thing. It's the Horsemen fucking with Sting. It's like at this point, if you've been an avid follower of WCW, you're like 7 years into this feud between Sting and the fucking Horsemen.
Yeah.
This is like, it's done. It's over. I get now you have your brand new like Monday night TV deal. So now we're getting a whole new audience, or you're getting people that have seen this shit play out. Done. Like, it's, I get it. Flair and Sting have like a storied rivalry, and yes, they do. But at this point, it's like, this is just exhausting. There was need for Sting to even be involved in this when he was trying to play peacekeeper between Macho and Lex. Like, what is even the point of Sting getting involved in Flair's bullshit? Because Flair asked him to be his partner on an episode of Saturday Night in between two Nitros. So if you watch, like I said, if you watch just Nitro, all you're hearing about is like, oh, was Ric Flair going to team up with Sting? It's like, at what point was this even an option? Because the prior week, Flair said he didn't need a partner.
Right.
So it's
right. You're right. It's a great point. Like I was saying, it's just something that it's like I feel like whenever they run out of ideas with the Horsemen, it's gotta put Flair with Sting.
Yeah.
Do something with Flair and Sting. So yeah, that's just how I feel.
And Sting's is the US champ at this point. Why is Flair even going for the US title?
Because I'm sure at this point Bischoff just hated Ric Flair.
Probably right.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going here because we have to get to a triumphant return here. Sabu, unfortunately, he defeats Disco Inferno after a slingshot somersault leg drop at just about 2.5 minutes.
It's not my headcanon. My headcanon, Disco won by disqualification because the ref reversed the decision. It didn't actually happen, but in my mind, that's how it happened.
Right, yeah.
It happened during Sabu's debut against Alex Wright. Why the fuck couldn't it happen here?
I know. This was ridiculous. You know, you get to a point where Sabu puts Disco on a table, but when he tries that somersault plancha onto the table, it does not break. He's probably hurt by this point. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's on so much cocaine.
When he flipped over the rope and he hit the table and you heard that loud crack, I was not sure if it was the table or his fucking spine.
Dude, I mean, like, find the gimmick table, Sabu. Find the one that's bending as you're setting it up.
Yeah. Find the one that's $39 at Home Depot, not the one someone hammered together with plywood.
Right. Sabu then picks up ring steps. He throws them at Disco. Disco leaves for the locker room. This would, thank God, be the Sabu's final appearance in WCW, as after this, the company ceased the continuation of his pay-per-appearance deal. How upset were you that we no longer would see Sabu on WCW TV?
I was pretty heartbroken. I'll tell you, I went out and got myself a full bottle of Absolute and just kind of drowned my sorrows. And then in honor of Sabu, I bumped a fat rail of Coke. So
good for you, sir.
It's all about solidarity.
That's all it is. Next up, Ming and Lex Luger defeat the American Males, everyone's favorite tag team. When Luger gets Marcus Bagwell to submit to the torture rack. Do you remember a time when the American Males were actually tag team champions? None of the announcers do because they never even mention it.
I mean, they did have the belts. They won them on episode of Nitro.
Damn right.
And then all of a sudden,
whoopsie, what happened was
when you talk about continuity, we're not talking about real continuity.
Yeah, it's just bad. Bischoff notes that the Ming Luger match at Halloween Havoc was a setup and illogical piece of storytelling because they wrestled for 13 minutes.
Yeah.
A setup.
What a setup.
I know. It's just like, a setup would have been a 10-minute, squash, like, Rock and Big Boss Man back in, the 1998 Survivor Series. But,
or when Triple H beat Shawn Michaels for the European title in 1997.
Yeah.
When Shawn laid down and Hunter ran the ropes for 5 minutes and then splashed on him.
What was your thoughts on this match? It was obviously like a squash. I mean, almost a 7-minute squash. But I feel like it's how it kind of needed to be booked here for Luger. What were your thoughts on this? Just a continuation?
Should have been just a full-on definitive squash, not a 7-minute back and forth. I don't need to see American Males for 7 minutes.
I agree, man.
7 seconds is too much to see fucking Buff Bagwell. I'd rather see Scotty Riggs for 7 minutes.
Oh man, don't say that because it might happen when we cover one of these things.
I hope so.
Fans are shown footage at the end of last night's pay-per-view, the Halloween Havoc main event there. At least we get to hear Tony Schiavone scream, "It's a Yeti" again. So that was always positive. Shivani then interviews Kevin Sullivan, Lex Luger, the Giant, and Jimmy Hart. The Giant is sporting the WCW title, which Shivani is quick to note that he did not win it at Halloween Havoc. Jimmy Hart says that he once managed Sullivan and that while Sullivan was his past, Luger and the Giant are his future. Luger gloats about beating Hogan up last night, with the Giant saying that he will defend the WCW title on the next Nitro against anyone willing to face him. By the end of the segment, Shivani quickly forgets about questioning the Giant about why he claims to be the world champion, and just goes right into hyping the title defense for next week's Nitro. Who was the most annoying person in WCW in 1995, and why is it Jimmy Hart?
Jimmy Hart's a great manager.
I feel like I've seen him 7 times every Monday.
I take nothing away from him. But goddamn, was he the most annoying person?
That's what I'm saying.
And he had a megaphone, so it's like,
yeah. So it's a double whammy.
Like when you look at your managers, like they're supposed to be like annoying little shits.
Yeah.
Like your Jim Cornette, your Paul E. Dangerously.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a plethora of managers in the fucking late 80s, like Jimmy Valiant and fucking Oliver Humperdinck and all this shit. Like your managers are supposed to be like annoying little shits. Like Jimmy Hart turned that shit to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's just cackling like an asshole. It's like and then Kevin Sullivan's like, I said there was evil in your house and it was Jimmy Hart. It's like, what the fuck are you even talking about? I hate you. I hate you, Booker man. I don't respect you, Booker man.
Oh, how dare you say these things?
Rest in peace, I guess.
I guess, right?
The truth
so
will come
that's
out. He was the one behind the Benoit murder.
So we get to the Nitro, man, that follows Halloween Havoc, a big pay-per-view, and the show ends with this promo. I thought the heel promo though at the end was pretty good. And I do feel like I think for the first time when you see Lex Luger, the Giant, Sullivan and Hart standing there, it kind of makes you in a way forget about the cartoonish bullshit of the Dungeon of Doom. Am I right? Like it does.
Yeah.
It kind of takes that away from your brainstem, which is good. Because
you've got the Giant who like looks menacing, 7 feet tall or like he's not 500 pounds yet, but
yeah,
like 7 feet tall. You got Lex Luger there, just like 2 like hulking men that are there for business. Now, if they were flanked by the Shark, Zodiac, the fucking Yeti, like it would have looked like hokey bullshit.
Really? Yeah, for sure.
And Lex would have looked insanely out of place.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out what the real purpose for Lex Luger's heel turn was. If it was all about him getting the WCW title, then why wouldn't you just be a heel from the jump?
I agree. It's a great question. I just feel like they had no idea what they wanted to do with Lex Luger. So they're like, you know what? If it didn't work out as a babyface, I mean, I felt like from the second he got to WCW, dude, I felt like he was that quote unquote a tweener from the second he got there, because he comes right in, he goes right up in the first Nitro to challenge Hulk Hogan, who's the ultimate babyface, and then from there it's like, well, how do we cheer for this guy? Do we not? When they pit him with Sting, then you cheer for him, but then he does these other things. Now he's a heel, and it doesn't last that long. So it's like I feel like Bischoff, who notoriously, you can find this on any one of his earlier podcasts, did not like Lex Luger. He brought Lex Luger in as a favor to Sting. So I felt like, you know what, Lex, you figure out what you want to do. I don't care. And I feel like that's what we're seeing here in the early 95 stages of Lex Luger.
This is what they could have done. I mean, if you want to turn Lex heel, then I have your perfect time to do it. Make him the 4th person in the Horsemen. Put Luger in the Horsemen, and then you got a Luger Sting feud. that feels a hell of a lot more fresh than fucking Flair and Sting.
I agree. Totally agree.
Like, yeah, like, you know, he had the match against Hogan and he lost against Hogan for the world title. All right, fine. So like you move down the pecking order. But then, like, you know, have Flair, you know, turn on Sting earlier, you know, not save it for the pay-per-view. And then you have at Halloween Havoc, you do Arn and Flair against Sting and Lex. With, you know, with Pillman's obviously in the Horseman's corner.
Yep.
You know, the faces don't need anybody because the face can be anybody up anyway. And then you have Luger turn on Sting and reveal that he's the fourth person for the Horseman.
Right.
I mean, Pillman's going to be gone in like a month and a half anyway.
Right. Right.
So after Pillman's gone, then you bring in Benoit as his replacement in the Horseman. Like there's so many ways it could have been done to make Luger a legitimate heel and not just sticking him with Kevin Sullivan and the Giant, which doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like there's ways to do it that would have made sense. But as you said, Bischoff did not like Lex Luger.
Not at all.
So he just did, well, like I have to have him on TV, so just do it like whatever. So you don't like him and you brought him in, then just keep him on WCW Saturday night. You don't need to have him on Edge if you don't want to use. Like, you're booking this show, Eric. Like, you don't have to put Luger on if you don't want to.
I agree.
These are guaranteed deals. They didn't have to be on TV. They're getting paid regardless.
Regardless, correct. Just ask Hulk Hogan. And I look at this way, although the main event of this show was more of a squash, this episode did beat Monday Night Raw. I mean, barely 2.3 to 2.1. And I think obviously that win, George, can be definitely attributed to, you know, the usual post pay-per-view, you know, interest.
Yeah.
At the very least, though, WCW is starting to assemble a pretty good ensemble of heels against Hulk Hogan. You know, from what we've seen the past 6 months, the Giant looks good. The new Horseman stable gives Ric Flair, I guess, more credibility. Then, like we were just talking about, you have Luger now, seems to be like a man possessed, and he's definitely been very much protected on television to this point. You know, obviously WCW needs more clarity from that last segment about what the hell is going on with the world title. But, you know, it does seem like they're starting to build some steam from a character standpoint moving forward. Am I wrong?
It feels like that, but
yeah.
My problem is that even though this was the Nitro after Halloween Havoc and they did respectable numbers in the ratings, this episode was a fucking dud.
It really was.
Like, this was not like this is the big, you know, night after Halloween Havoc. We sort of heard, you know, we heard about two fucking matches. We heard about the, you know, Flair turning on Sting in the tag match.
Yep.
And then the world title match.
Yeah.
We couldn't have found a way to shoehorn in Johnny B. Bad, you know, defend the TV title, his newly won TV title against somebody. We couldn't have found a way to kind of put that in there, but hey, you know, let's put Craig Pittman on TV. Why not have Johnny B. Bad defend his TV title against Eddie Guerrero?
Why not? Right?
Like, tweet
Eric Bischoff and let's get this done for next week.
You could have just given, you know, you want to give him like 6 minutes, fine. Give him 6 minutes. You know, it puts over Johnny B. Bad as like a dominant champ. It's fine. But like, you could have done anything to follow up this pay-per-view with news and storylines, and you just shit in your hands and clapped.
That definitely, I mean, just watching the end of that show, that's how I feel as well. All right, so let's go over to the other company here. WWF Monday Night Raw, October 30th, 1995. From the Keystone Center in Brandon, Manitoba. Your host, as usual, Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler. We get a video package narrated by the one and only Todd Pettengill. that is Halloween themed, hyping up tonight's show that will feature Razor Ramon versus Owen Hart for the Intercontinental title, and the Raw debut of Goldust, who will be going up against Savio Vega. So that's two pretty hot segments, man, like right off the bat. So nice work there. Vince is dressed up as a convict. Boy, talk about foreshadowing.
It's like he knew.
It's like he knew. And Lawler as a surgeon. Lawler should have just dressed up as a married man. That would have been the biggest joke of them all. Opening match here is Savio Vega versus the debuting Goldust. Look, it wasn't an exciting match, but the crowd really dug it. I thought they were really, really into this Goldust character. I thought the finish was weak though. Although I do feel like Goldust continues to struggle working this gimmick as a heel. But
he eventually gets his footing with it though.
Oh, of course he definitely does. He just had to figure it out. He had to figure out what his boundaries were on this, on television. But the words, Vince kept calling Goldust strange and bizarre. I don't care, man. It's really cool seeing Goldust here in the beginning stages. What says you?
Same. And
yeah,
what a low key banger his theme is, by the way.
Oh, it's one of the best, man. It's one of the best.
So fucking like it. When you listen to his theme, the theme sounds like gold, if that makes any sense. Like the way it sounds, like if gold made a sound, it would be that. Like it's so like Jim Johnson was just perfection personified when it came to these themes. And goddamn, that is a 24 karat banger, if you excuse my pun. And I don't care. I like puns. I'm going to say it anyway.
That's fine. I will say, like, man, it's crazy that Goldust theme song here is better than anything Def Rebel has produced their entire time with the WWE.
Savio Vega's theme is better than anything Def Rebel's produced. And that was just like generic island music.
I know.
Savio was so good in the ring too.
He really was. Just spectacular.
Austin loved working with him.
Oh, Austin always has glowing reviews about him. Let's go to one of my favorite segments of each Raw, which is, we're talking Slam Jam here with Doc Hendricks, who's all about Survivor Series. Doc has pumpkin face paint and tells us this morning WWF President Gorilla Monsoon made the Bret Hart versus Diesel match a no count out, no DQ match. Doc then wants to know who the fans will align with during the match. I'm sure they'll be able to tell him right there. However,
we can call him on the hotline and tell him.
Yes. However, we get interrupted to go backstage where Vince says we have a shoving match. The camera cuts back to the 1, 2, 3 kid telling Razor Ramon to calm down as Razor says we can do this right now. It was nice. I didn't mind the cutting away, going to a backstage, kerfuffle. So not too bad. We now get Barry Horowitz versus Hakushi in Karate Fighters outfits as Horowitz wins. Pettingale once again is on commentary for this using his Howard Cosell impression, which I thought was terrible, but whatever. The Karate Fighters I enjoyed.
That was just a promo for Karate Fighters.
That's all it was.
They're hyping up toys.
Yeah, good. Definitely.
I miss toys.
Me too. Next up, here's a man that knows all about toys. Marty Jannetty versus Joe Dorgan.
Good old Joe Dorgan's back.
Yeah. Whatever, man. This was something. The announcers could have cared less about this match. If you guys watch this, they were just talking about Bret Hart and Diesel match of Survivor Series. And then out of nowhere, Marty puts Dorgan away with a flying fist drop at 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Look, I guess it was a win for, to build up Marty Jannetty heading into next week's match against the Bulldog. If the dude would have had his head on straight for any amount of time, I think Marty Jannetty would have been positioned as a very good, credible mid-carder to put over other guys that are being pushed. Yeah. But he just couldn't stay out of his own way, which sucks. But Joe Dorgan's not an opponent that I want to see Jannetty facing.
No, But hey, at least they're trying to continue a storyline between Bulldog and Jannetty.
Yeah.
So at least there's that to a
Mhm.
point. Because Bulldog did beat the shit out of Jannetty and cost him a shot at the Intercontinental title. So then he gets his rematch. There's something there. But Joe Dorgan,
Joe Dorgan, he ain't it.
You could have just had him face, I don't fucking know, Quang. I know that was Omega. Yeah, I'd face Rikushi.
How about Aldo Montoya? Could have faced Aldo Montoya.
Skip.
Yeah.
Anybody.
I'll say this. I wouldn't have mind seeing Marty Jannetty get put over Goldust. I mean, Savio, I think I wouldn't have put Savio in that spot. I would like to have seen maybe Marty in that role.
I think, well, didn't they have the match at Great Way North was Goldust and Marty Jannetty?
You are correct. So, yeah. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been awful to see on television.
No, they could, could do it on TV. Do it for TV.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Vince is now in the ring with British Bulldog and Jim Cornette. There is also someone else in the ring that Cornette refers to as Mr. Mason. Cornette is irate over Bulldog constantly being passed over for title shots. And that WWF president Gorilla Monsoon even stated Brett was going to face the winner of Bulldog versus Diesel at In Your House, where Bulldog did win via disqualification. Cornette says that Monsoon keeps passing over Bulldog. Then Vince asks why Mr. Mason is here. Cornette says he is the finest litigator, and his name is Clarence Mason. We then hear from Mason as he says justice will be served. Lawler says that Mason is the best since Jerry McDivitt. Little inside baseball there.
Yeah,
that's funny.
It's funny because when I was watching, I was kind of watching in half. Looking at my phone when Cornette's telling me I said the finest litigator. In my mind, I'm like, is he gonna mention? Is Stephen P. New gonna show up here because he's always plugging him on the experience? And I'm like, it's Clarence Mason. I went too far into the future on that one. That was on me.
Oh, that's so good. He then says Monsoon's actions are unacceptable, as the contract clearly stated the winner would face Brett at Survivor Series. Vince interjects and says he thought the champion would face Brett, but Mason says that is all semantics, and the contract stated otherwise. Mason demands a match with Bret Hart because Bret cost Bulldog his title chance. Cornette said that the wild card match at Survivor Series is unfair and that Mason will investigate this as well. Vince asked about Bulldog versus Jannetty next week, as Cornette says Jannetty is in trouble. Bulldog yells at Jannetty and says that he does not belong in the same ring with him, and he's just a stepping stone to get to Big Daddy Cool. However, though, our main man, Marty Jannetty, runs out and drop kicks Bulldog from behind. He then takes out Cornette and points at Mason before backing him into the corner. May I just say, the crowd went bonkers for Marty here.
Yeah, crowd was so fucking hyped. It was like Marty McFly came out of Marty Jannetty.
Yeah. He then takes out Cornette, like I said, points at Mason. Mason pleads with Marty, then says he will sue him, and then gets Marty to stop himself from attacking, but not before teasing a punch. I thought this was a very, very long segment.
Marty's like, go ahead, sue me. I don't have any money anyway.
Sue me for what? Rocky V, awful movie.
Yeah. That's the Rocky movie you quote.
I know, right? Why not? I know, right?
Yeah, Clarence Mason is kind of like who the fuck was the Tommy Gunn's manager?
Yes, that's correct.
George Washington Carver, whatever his name was. Yeah.
What was your thoughts in this very, very long segment?
It was a long segment. I mean,
yeah.
I'll listen to Cornette cut a promo all day because he's one of the best managers to do it.
Yeah.
And that's not just me blowing him because I like the experience, but I mean, facts are facts. A good manager is going to pull your attention in.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what the manager is supposed to do, which also means he never should have put the microphone in Bulldog's face. I don't want to hear him talk ever. Not just because he has a British accent, but he's got the British accent and a mouthful of marbles.
He does.
Clarence Mason. I'm surprised they didn't do more with Clarence Mason.
Yeah, I wonder what that was all about.
I know he became eventually he became like legal counsel for the original incarnation of Nation of Domination when it had Crush and Savio Vega, and he was like the manager, like legal counsel. And then after that, he was gone, and then just randomly popped up in WCW as, I think it was Jay Biggs.
I think you are correct, actually.
Jay Biggs, and he was like the lawyer for Harlem Heat 2000.
Jesus.
Which was Stevie Ray and Big T, otherwise known as Fat Fuck Ahmed Johnson.
Wow. If only that was his real name on television, he would be much more over.
Fat Fuck Ahmed Johnson.
We get the next match here. Smoking Guns versus Otis, Apollo, and Scott D'Amore.
What a team. What a team.
Jeez. 1995, ladies and gentlemen. We see footage of the Guns
anywhere
in the world, especially Bahrain. We see footage of the Guns retaining against Razor and Kid at the pay-per-view. Then Kid attacking the champs from behind after the match. Billy Gunn works over Apollo to start. We now go split screen and see Kid apologize to the Guns for his behavior after their match. He then says, if they're the champs like they say, then they'll grant Razor himself another title match before adding that they better do it soon. He was a lot meaner at the end, which was new for the 1-2-3 Kid in this era. The Guns are now working over D'Amore as the announcers talk about the Intercontinental title match for tonight, while adding that Owen tried to mix it up with Razor earlier. Apollo tags in, but is then quickly put away with the Sidewinder. All this in just about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. It's a quick win, man, for the Guns, but the real story, obviously, here is, they're setting up another title defense against Razor and the Kid. I will say, man, Sean Waltman's babyface promos in this era were quite poor, if I might just say so.
They were bad.
Yes.
Poor is too soft of a word. These were horrendous.
I'm trying to be nice because, Sean Waltman today seems like a pretty swell guy.
Listen, he's on the straight and narrow now.
Yeah.
But he shouldn't have been allowed to ever hold a microphone.
Yes.
Pre-growing facial hair, he never should have touched a microphone.
I agree. Bret Hart tells us that it's tough when good friends go to war and says he respects Diesel, but in the Survivor Series, a winner must be declared, and he will be champ once again. We then cut back to the announcers as Lawler takes umbrage with Bret for overlooking their tag team match next week. We go to a commercial break. We come back. We see Paul Bearer in the graveyard warning Mabel that The Undertaker will return. Vince also plugs Paul Bear's AOL appearance tomorrow evening at 11 p.m. By the way, I don't care what era it is. It's still cool to see a vignette of Paul Bearer in the graveyard. Just give that to me every single week and I'll be happy with it. I just love it. Here we are. Let's get to the main event of Monday Night Raw, the WWF Intercontinental title match. Owen Hart versus Razor Ramon. This one goes about almost 11 full minutes here. We got a lot of brouhaha as we get some interference here at the end with Yokozuna, Mr. Fuji. Things are just kind of all over the place. British Bulldogs out here. We got our main man, Ahmed Johnson, coming to the ring. Yoko slams him. This is just mayhem at the end. And it sucks because, man, I just wanted to see Owen versus Razor for the IC title. Just two incredible workers go at it. Man, what was your, I thought the match itself was great, although the finish looked bad as it took Yoko half the show to get into the ring. We got the debut of Ahmed Johnson here, which is the worst thing of all. But him coming in, slamming Yoko as the first thing he does in WWF, I think positions him pretty well at that moment.
Crowd pop for it.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because I looked at Ahmed Johnson slamming Yokozuna, and I'm thinking it's like 2 years prior, they had a whole thing on the fucking USS Intrepid about trying to slam Yokozuna, and no one could do it.
Yeah.
Ahmed Johnson just rolls in. This Yokozuna is 2 years bigger than 1993 Yokozuna. There's like an extra 100 pounds on Yokozuna.
Yeah.
So and he slammed him with no issue at all. Just kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, no disrespect to Yokozuna. Like, yeah, he got big, unhealthily big.
Yeah.
But that dude would still throw that fucking savate kick out of nowhere and hit anyone.
He was just crazy athletic for a man his size. Imagine if he gave any kind of crap about his physical well-being. Like what he could have really been able to do and accomplish.
He would have been like what Jacob Fatu is now. He would have been that in 95.
That's a great comparison. I think that's perfect. I think you're right. He could have even been like what Rikishi was in the mid to late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
He could have had some really good weight to him still, but athletically just still so gifted.
Because Rikishi was big, but he was still doing. And they always say that's like the one thing with the Yanoahi family is even the biggest guy is still the most agile guy in the ring compared to whoever else is in there. It's insane.
I know.
They're just built different.
They are. Yeah, you're right. So that's it for this Monday Night Raw, and I'm gonna say a lot more enjoyable than most of the WWF Raws that we've covered over the last month.
A much better show.
Yeah, the main event was good. They set up next week's show very well. Survivor Series does not seem to be a must-see at the moment, with only the title match really offering any kind of intrigue. I think that wild card thing is just thrown kind of like something that's thrown together for no reason. But the march towards Survivor Series will continue. Man, I'll say this. By far, this was the better show than Monday Nitro.
By like a country mile. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time I'm going to say, Nitro doesn't even come close here, in my opinion. And we didn't really have, we didn't really have, we still don't really have Shawn Michaels. We don't have Undertaker's not on the show. Bret Hart's really not there. It's crazy, man. This was a really good showing for WWF.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was just a great show. So I'm looking at the Survivor Series card here. I just brought up, and I'm looking at the wild card Survivor Series match. This just looks to be an excuse to get some big names on the card.
I agree with you totally. Yeah.
They're hype up, there's no rhyme or reason to it, which is fine. Because I kind of like that about Survivor Series is when they were just throwing teams together just to have a Survivor Series match. Which is what this was. It was just to get big names on the card. It was a reason to get Shawn and Bulldog and Razor on the card. Razor had to defend the Intercontinental title on the card, so it's just a way to get them on there.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. All right. So, yeah, we've already, like we just said, Raw gets the profound victory here, although they lost in the ratings by 2 points there, by 0.2 of a point, 2.3 to 2.1. We still think that those numbers don't tell the story, in my opinion, because I just feel like it's not even close here that Raw is the better show. I'm trying to find out Monday Night War ratings, what the ratings were for next week. Here we go. 11. Okay, yeah. So we get next week and Raw beats Nitro pretty handily next week. So I'm looking forward to covering next week's show to see what we have for week 9 of the War Room. George, any final thoughts before we ride off into the sunset here?
I don't really have much. Crown Jewel is Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
I was going to watch it, but they've enacted some mandatory extra time this week, and my mandatory day is Saturday, so I'm gonna miss it. Which I mean, it's fine. It was Crunchyroll. I wanted to kind of watch it just because I wanted to see Cody and Gunther.
Yeah.
But I'll just catch the highlights. But a little bit from Raw last night, from what I saw, it's such a better show now that it's 2 hours.
It is. I agree. Totally agree.
It feels good. Like Dominic Mysterio got a surprising roll-up pinfall on Damian Priest.
Mhm.
However, at the end of the match, Damian Priest gave him a choke slam that would make Kane jealous.
Yep.
That looked good. And like the more I see Dominic and just his swagger, it's like, man, this kid literally just has it.
He does.
Yeah, it's like I remember like when he debuted and we're like, oh, we didn't know what to make him when he debuted. Now he's just doing Ray's moves. It's like he has no personality. But once he turned heel, holy shit, this kid is fucking wild. And there was like out in the parking lot when Bronson Reed and Seth were having their little kerfuffle out there. There was like a logo on the side of one of the trucks for Dominic. And I swear to God, it looked like Sean's old logo from like 95, where it was like his name in cursive over the heart.
I thought the same thing.
It was Dominic Mysterio in cursive was over a blue heart. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't know who. And it's weird because like I look at Dominic, I'm like, I'm not sure who he's supposed to be. Is he heel Eddie or is he boy toy Shawn Michaels? Like he is
a good mix of both.
He is this great mix of both of these characters. And did you see like his new shirt? It says Latino cheat on it.
Yep.
I really want it. I kind of want it.
Let me ask you, do you see in the near future, maybe the next 2 years, there's a chance that they elevate Dami to that world heavyweight title picture?
I think
he's just so over.
This is my thought process. I think Dominic wins the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania.
I would love it. That might be the biggest pop of the night.
And I mean, even if he holds it for like a fucking day and just loses it the next night on Raw or like the next month, next pay-per-view, I can see maybe not next year, but 2026, I can see Dominic winning Money in the Bank.
Oh, that would be great. I would love that. Yeah, I would love to see that happen. Yeah, for sure.
R-Truth once again proving he is God's gift to pro wrestling.
No, he's timeless, that guy.
And he did a thing where it looked like he like teamed back up where like he like forgave Miz. And he's like, oh, I got something for you. And then reached into his pocket and then just slapped the Miz in the face. He's like, good luck with the Wyatts. You're gonna die, and walks away. And
I love him.
And it looks like they're giving Karrion Kross and Paul Testament something to do because it looks like they're gonna have a possible eventual feud with the Wyatts.
Yeah.
With Miz.
Yeah.
Because they asked Miz, they're like, oh, so what's the plan? Miz like, I was just gonna look for the Wyatts and then run. And Karrion Kross is like, oh, well, you go find Bo Dallas and ask him why he's involved in my business, or I'm gonna break your legs.
Oof, yeah.
And then there was something I saw on Instagram where it was Karrion Kross like drawing something on his Instagram, and Scarlett comes in and goes, hey, so the Miz is just missing. The Wyatts took him. And they're like, and he's like, oh, all right. They're like, well, do you think we should go find him? It's like, well, how long has he been gone? Like, about 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Oh, he's dead. It's like, oh, he's dead.
What is your thoughts so far on the Wyatt Six?
I like how they're being used.
Okay.
I'm not seeing them every week. It's not overdone. They show up, they have like a little bit of feud, you get a couple good matches, you get a payoff match, and they're gone for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they come back. Yeah. That's what I want to see. Because if Vince was running the show, first
Oh,
things
God.
first, if Vince was running the show, they would have lost to Gable and American Made, and that would have ruined their mystique entirely.
Yeah.
And Vince would have just had them on TV every single fucking week.
Yeah. They would have been on TV multiple times a night.
Yeah. It seems as though Triple H is learning
Less
from the
is more.
mistake that was made with Bray Wyatt.
Which is good. I'm glad that seems
Which is-
to be the case.
And I mean, I don't want to like blow Triple H here. I mean, because he's had some misses since he's been running, but he has more hits than misses. And he just knows what he's doing.
I agree. I mean,
And
look, I
got faith in the boss. I'm sorry.
I mean, look, I mean, when you're watching the show every week, 2 times a week, because of SmackDown, it you want it to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to say, I have confidence in the guy who's running the show.
Yeah. I mean, and it looks like there's another layer onto the Bloodline storyline too. Bloodline shows up. Jimmy and Jay have reunited. Okay, so the Usos are back together. Now you got to get Roman to agree with Jay, which I saw a spoiler because SmackDown's taped.
Yeah,
because they're going over Saudi. I saw a clip of Roman saying "yeet" on SmackDown. So, and Sammy was talking to Solo in the parking lot.
It's coming.
There's
there's
your
Survivor Series.
Just when you think like it's weird. It's where we always talk about this. Like just when you think like, oh, what more can they do with the Bloodline?
Yeah,
there's something else. It's like
they find a way. Yeah.
Like it's so much care is being taken,
and
I really just kind of respect it at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, this is when you're doing this program, dude, for as long as they've done it, man, you better take care of it. It should be your main priority. It has to be.
Yeah.
Because you're building this thing for 3-4 years. You better find a way to make sure that people are going to invest into that every single time.
Like I know, I know the ratings don't show because I mean it is hard to compete against Monday Night Football, and I don't want to use it as the crutch because then I sign at the other fucking place making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's true. People aren't watching wrestling how they used to. But the fact that the shows have been good, it's almost starting to feel like appointment TV again.
I agree with you totally, especially as we get towards Royal Rumble season, and then of course. Once Royal Rumble's done, it's onward and upward to Mania, and then you're on Netflix at that point. So it's gonna be something, man. As the new year turns,
and the day after Christmas, they're gonna be at Madison Square Garden. I told you and Dean, you guys on text. I mean, that's a non-televised show. That's right. It's like a Thursday night, but even if it's a house show, I kind of still want to go up.
Yeah.
Just kind of seeing how just seeing what it is. Like I
see wrestling in MSG.
Yeah. Cross that off a bucket list.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so this is
not just a drug addict struggling with trying to stay awake on the steps of Penn Station.
No. All right, this has been the War Room here, week 8. If you guys are watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. We will be back here next week for the War Room week 9 as we push towards the Survivor Series on WWF. And then the second week following Halloween Havoc. What's after Halloween Havoc?
World War III.
World War III, which, so we have a lot of fun stuff coming up on Nitro as we head towards World War III and the Survivor Series. So thank you guys so very much. We will catch you guys here next week. We're already in November. Crazy. 9th week into this thing. But we're full-fledged. Halloween's, I know, 2 days. All right, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Happy Halloween. Be safe. Have a great time. Get spooked out. Spook somebody else out. But have a good one. Enjoy and be safe. And we'll catch you guys here down the road. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.